The Great Hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with nervous energy. Hundreds of alien beings from across the galaxy had gathered for an emergency meeting. Their varied forms filled the massive chamber. Some walked on legs, others floated through the air, and a few existed as pure energy in special containers. Ambassador Lisa Martinez sat in the human section, her hands folded tightly in her lap. She had received the urgent message from Earth just hours ago. The news was not good. The Zephyrian Empire, one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy, had given humanity an ultimatum. They wanted all human colonies in the outer rim sectors to surrender immediately. If humans refused, the Zephyrians promised total war. Next to Lisa sat Admiral Jack Thompson, a tall man with gray hair and sharp eyes. He wore his Earth military uniform with pride, even though most aliens in the chamber looked at it with pity. To them, human military technology seemed primitive and outdated. Their weapons still used metal bullets and chemical explosives. Their ships moved through space using simple rocket engines. It all seemed so backward, compared to the energy weapons and faster-than-light drives that other species used. The council speaker, a being that looked like a walking tree with glowing blue bark, called for order. "We are here to discuss the situation between the Zephyrian Empire and the human species," the speaker announced. Its voice echoed through translation devices that every being in the chamber wore. Emperor Zarthok of the Zephyrian Empire stood up from his seat. He was 9 feet tall with purple skin and 4 arms. His people had conquered 17 star systems in the past 100 years. No one had ever successfully fought back against their advanced plasma weapons and energy shields. "The humans have 30 days to abandon their illegal colonies," Zarthok declared, his voice booming across the chamber. "If they refuse, we will remove them by force. This is not a negotiation. This is a warning." Murmurs spread through the gathered aliens. Many species had faced similar ultimatums from the Zephyrians over the years. Most had simply given up their territories rather than fight a hopeless war. The few who had tried to resist were quickly destroyed. The council speaker turned toward the human section. "Ambassador Martinez, does your species wish to request protection under the Galactic Peace Accords? The council can offer sanctuary to your people on designated refugee worlds." Lisa felt all eyes in the chamber turn toward her. She could see the pity in their alien faces. They expected her to beg for help, to admit that humans were too weak to defend themselves. That was what every other species had done when faced with Zephyrian aggression, but Lisa had her orders from Earth. She stood up slowly, her heart pounding. "Thank you for the offer, honored council," she said in a clear voice. "However, humanity must respectfully decline." The chamber fell silent. Even the constant humming of the translation devices seemed to pause. "Earth has decided to defend our colonies through military action," Lisa continued. "We will not abandon our people to Zephyrian rule." The silence stretched for several seconds. Then the chamber erupted in shocked voices. Aliens turned to each other in disbelief. Some made sounds that the translation devices rendered as laughter. Others seemed genuinely concerned. Admiral Thompson stood up beside Lisa. Unlike the ambassador, he looked completely calm. His weathered face showed no fear or doubt. "The Earth Defense Force is already mobilizing," he announced. "Our fleets will depart for the outer rim within 72 hours. Emperor Zarthok's 4 eyes widened in surprise, then narrowed in anger. "You cannot be serious," he said. "Your primitive weapons cannot penetrate our shields. Your slow ships cannot match our speed. You will be destroyed in hours." Admiral Thompson met the Emperor's gaze without blinking. "We shall see," he replied simply. The council speaker raised its branch-like arms for silence. "Ambassador Martinez, are you certain of this decision? The Zephyrian Empire has never been defeated in battle. Your species is young and inexperienced in galactic warfare. Perhaps you should reconsider." Lisa looked around the chamber at all the alien faces staring at her. She saw doubt, pity, and fear. But she also saw something else in a few faces, curiosity. Some of the older species remembered what it was like to fight for their freedom. They understood why humans would choose war over surrender. "We are certain," Lisa said firmly. "Humanity will not bow to threats. We will defend our right to exist in this galaxy." A delegate from the crystalline Vexani species spoke up. "But humans have no experience with space warfare. Your technology is centuries behind ours. This is suicide." Admiral Thompson smiled slightly. "You might be surprised what humans can accomplish when we put our minds to it," he said. "We have a saying on Earth. Never underestimate the power of a cornered animal. The comparison to animals caused more murmurs throughout the chamber. Most galactic species had evolved beyond their primitive origins millions of years ago. They had forgotten what it meant to fight for survival. Warfare had become a civilized affair of energy exchanges and shield calculations. Emperor Zarthok laughed, a sound like grinding metal. Very well, humans. If you choose death over wisdom, so be it. My fleets will show no mercy. Your colonies will burn and your homeworld will follow. We will be ready, Admiral Thompson replied calmly. The council speaker tried one more time. Perhaps a compromise could be reached. The humans could share administration of the colonies with the Zephyrian Empire. No, Lisa said immediately. We will not negotiate with bullies. Earth's position is final. As the meeting ended, aliens began filing out of the chamber in small groups. Many were already placing bets on how long the human resistance would last. The general consensus was less than a week. Some optimistic observers thought humans might hold out for a month if they hid behind asteroids and avoided direct combat. Admiral Thompson and Ambassador Martinez walked out together, surrounded by alien reporters asking questions about humanity's suicide mission. The Admiral ignored them all, his mind already focused on the preparations ahead. As they reached their transport, Lisa finally spoke. "Jack, are we really doing the right thing?" The Admiral looked up at the artificial sky of the council station, where holographic stars twinkled peacefully. "Lisa, there are some things worth fighting for even when the odds are against you. Freedom is one of them." Behind them, Emperor Zarthok was already speaking to his military advisors, planning the swift destruction of the human colonies. He had no idea that he was about to learn a very painful lesson about underestimating a species that had spent its entire history perfecting the art of war. Captain Ryan Davis stood on the bridge of the Earth Defender, watching the massive shipyard through the main viewing screen. Hundreds of human vessels were being prepared for war. Cargo ships carried supplies and ammunition. Repair crews worked around the clock to upgrade weapon systems. The sight filled him with both pride and worry. Earth's fleet looked nothing like the sleek alien warships that dominated galactic space. Human ships were thick and blocky, built for durability rather than beauty. Their hulls were covered in armor plating and weapon ports. Where alien vessels relied on energy shields and advanced technology, human ships depended on solid metal and clever engineering. "Captain, we have a message from Earth Command," reported Lieutenant Bobby Chen from the communication station. "Admiral Thompson wants to speak with all ship commanders in 1 hour." Ryan nodded. "Acknowledge the message. Also, tell Chief Martinez in engineering that I want a full report on our weapon modifications." The past 3 days had been a blur of activity. Every human military base in the solar system was working at maximum capacity. Factories that normally produce civilian goods had been converted to make military supplies. Scientists who studied peaceful technologies were now focused on building better weapons. Dr. Kate Sullivan hurried through the corridors of the research station, carrying a data pad filled with classified information. As Earth's chief military scientist, she had been given an impossible task: find a way to make human weapons effective against Zephyrian shields and armor. The problem was simple, but difficult. Alien military technology was based on energy manipulation. Their weapons fired beams of superheated plasma. Their shields deflected or absorbed energy attacks. Their armor was designed to disperse heat and electrical charges. Human weapons were completely different. They relied on kinetic energy, the simple physics of fast-moving objects hitting their targets. Bullets, missiles, and shells that used explosive force to cause damage. It was primitive by galactic standards, but Kate suspected it might also be effective. "Dr. Sullivan, the test results are ready," called out her assistant, a young man named Pete Williams who had recently graduated from military academy. Kate looked at the data on her screen and smiled. The tests had exceeded her expectations. Human railguns, which used magnetic fields to fire metal projectiles at incredible speeds, could punch right through Zephyrian energy shields. The shields were designed to stop energy, not solid matter traveling at several miles per second. "Pete, send this data to all fleet commanders immediately," she ordered. "And start production on the new ammunition types. We're going to give the aliens a very unpleasant surprise." Meanwhile, on a training station orbiting Mars, Colonel Ben Harper was putting human Marines through intensive combat drills. Unlike the other galactic species, humans had never stopped training for war. Every human military unit spent hours each week practicing combat techniques. "Listen up, people," Harper shouted to the assembled soldiers. "The aliens think we're primitive because we still use projectile weapons and explosive devices. They're about to learn why those weapons have kept humans alive for thousands of years." Sergeant Amy Foster raised her hand. "Sir, intelligence reports say that alien boarding actions are conducted by robots and drones. They don't send living beings into combat situations." Harper grinned. "That's right, Foster, which means they have no idea how to fight against actual soldiers who can think, adapt, and improvise. We're going to board their ships and show them what human infantry can do." The training exercises that followed would have horrified most galactic observers. Humans practiced with weapons that fired metal bullets, threw explosive grenades, and used knives for close combat. They trained to fight in zero gravity, in pressurized corridors, and in the vacuum of space itself. What made it even more shocking was how good humans were at it. They moved like they were born to fight. They worked together as teams, communicated without words, and adapted to changing situations in seconds. War was not just something humans did, it was something they excelled at. Back on Earth, the news networks were filled with reports about the coming conflict. Most alien observers predicted a quick Zephyrian victory. Some experts thought the war might last as long as a month, if humans managed to hide their ships effectively. Emperor Zarthok gave interviews to galactic media, expressing his confidence in victory. "Humans are brave but foolish," he declared. "They have no understanding of modern warfare. Their weapons cannot penetrate our defenses. This will not be a war. It will be an extermination." The Emperor's military advisors agreed with his assessment. General Krikstar, the Zephyrians' top strategic commander, had studied human military capabilities extensively. His report concluded that human ships were too slow, their weapons too primitive, and their tactics too simple to pose any real threat. "The humans still fight like they are on the surface of a planet," General Krikstar explained to his staff. "They have not learned how to conduct proper space warfare. We will destroy them from a safe distance using our superior weapons." What the Zephyrian commanders did not understand was that humans had been studying them as well. Earth's intelligence services had been gathering information about alien military tactics for years. They knew exactly how galactic species preferred to fight. Most alien warfare followed predictable patterns. Ships would approach each other at long range. They would exchange energy weapon fire while maneuvering slowly to maintain optimal shield positioning. The battle would continue until one side's shields failed and their ships were disabled. It was civilized, predictable, and completely different from how humans fought wars. Admiral Thompson finished his final meeting with Earth's military leadership and walked to his private quarters. In 12 hours, the human fleet would depart for the Outer Rim. They would be outnumbered 3-1 by Zephyrian forces. Most of the galaxy expected them to be destroyed quickly, but Thompson had read the reports from Dr. Sullivan and Colonel Harper. He had seen the test results from the new weapons systems. He knew something that the rest of the galaxy did not understand. Humans had never stopped being warriors. While other species had evolved beyond physical conflict, humans had simply gotten better at it. They had turned warfare into a science, combining thousands of years of combat experience with modern technology. The Zephyrian Empire was about to discover that there was a big difference between being advanced and being effective in battle. They were going to learn that sometimes the most primitive solution was also the most devastating one. As the human fleet prepared to depart, one thing was certain: the galaxy would never be the same after this war. The question was not whether humans would survive the conflict. The question was whether anyone else would be left standing when it was over. The first battle began in the Kepler 442 system, where 3 human frigates encountered a Zephyrian advance patrol. Lieutenant Commander Alex Stone commanded the small human force from the bridge of his ship, the Earth's Fury. His 2 companion vessels, the Steel Wolf and the Iron Eagle, moved in formation beside him. Across space, 12 Zephyrian destroyers approached in their traditional battle formation. Each alien ship was twice the size of the human vessels and armed with powerful plasma weapons. Their energy shields glowed with a faint blue light, ready to deflect any incoming attacks. The galactic news networks had positioned their recording ships at a safe distance to document what everyone expected to be a quick human defeat. Alien reporters spoke confidently about Zephyrian superiority, while their cameras focused on the approaching fleets. "This should be over in minutes," declared Vexani news correspondent Zilthara. The humans have made a brave but foolish gesture. Their primitive kinetic weapons cannot possibly penetrate modern energy shielding. Commander Stone studied his tactical display and smiled grimly. The Zephyrian ships were doing exactly what human intelligence had predicted. They were approaching slowly, maintaining perfect formation and preparing for a long-range energy exchange. "All ships, this is Stone," he announced over the communication system. "Execute Plan Delta. Full speed ahead." The three human ships suddenly accelerated to maximum velocity, heading directly toward the Zephyrian formation. This was not what aliens expected. In galactic warfare, ships approached each other carefully, maintaining safe distances while exchanging fire. General Krikstar, commanding the Zephyrian patrol from his flagship, watched the human maneuver with confusion. "What are they doing?" he asked his tactical officer. "Do they intend to ram us?" "Unknown, sir," replied the officer. "Their course will bring them within point-blank range of our weapons. Perhaps their navigation systems are malfunctioning." The Zephyrian ships activated their plasma cannons and began firing at long range. Bright green energy beams lanced across space toward the approaching human vessels. Most of the shots missed completely. The few that hit were absorbed by the thick armor plating on the human ships. This surprised the Zephyrian gunners. Their weapons were designed to overload enemy shields and disable electronic systems. They were not meant to punch through solid metal armor. The humans had built their ships like ancient battleships, with layers of steel and ceramic. "Protection. Railguns charging," reported weapons. Officer Danny Clark aboard the Earth's Fury. "Range decreasing rapidly." Commander. Stone watched the distance counter drop on his screen. When it reached the optimal range, he gave the order that would change galactic warfare forever. "All ships, open fire." The human railgun spoke with thunder that could be felt through the ship's hull. Solid metal projectiles, each weighing several pounds, streaked across space at tremendous velocity. They moved too fast for the human eye to follow and hit their targets in seconds. The effect was devastating. Zephyrian energy shields, designed to stop plasma beams and energy weapons, offered no protection against solid matter traveling at incredible speed. The railgun projectiles punched through the shields like they were not there and slammed into the alien ship hulls. The first Zephyrian destroyer exploded immediately as a railgun round hit its power core. The second lost all power when projectiles destroyed its main reactor. The third began spinning helplessly as its navigation systems were shattered by the kinetic impacts. "Impossible," whispered General Krikstar as he watched his ships being torn apart. "Their weapons should not be able to penetrate our defenses." But the human attack was just beginning. As the three frigates closed to point-blank range, they launched swarms of missiles. These were not the guided energy projectiles that galactic species used. They were simple rockets filled with explosive chemicals, designed to cause maximum damage on impact. The Zephyrian point defense systems tried to intercept the incoming missiles, but were overwhelmed by the sheer number of targets. Explosions blossomed across the alien ship hulls as the primitive but effective weapons found their marks. Within minutes, half of the Zephyrian patrol was destroyed or disabled. The remaining ships tried to retreat, but the human vessels pursued them relentlessly. Unlike alien commanders who followed strict rules of engagement, the humans fought with brutal efficiency. "Sir, 3 enemy ships are attempting to surrender," reported Communications Officer Lisa Park. Commander Stone considered this for a moment. In galactic warfare, surrender was always accepted. Captured crews were treated well and eventually exchanged for prisoners. It was civilized and predictable. "Acknowledged," Stone replied. "Prepare boarding parties." This decision shocked the alien observers. Most galactic species used automated systems or robots for boarding actions. They did not send living beings into potentially dangerous combat situations. The idea of soldiers fighting inside spaceships was considered barbaric. Sergeant Tim Brooks led the human boarding party that cut through the hull of the surrendered Zephyrian vessel. His team wore full combat armor and carried an assortment of weapons that would have horrified galactic peacekeepers. They had rifles that fired metal bullets, grenades that exploded with chemical force, and knives for close combat. The Zephyrian crew had never seen anything like them. The aliens were tall and graceful, with purple skin and multiple arms. They were also completely unprepared for the sight of armored human soldiers carrying primitive but terrifying weapons. "Please," begged Captain Veltar, the Zephyrian ship commander. "We surrender." There is no need for violence. Sergeant Brooks lowered his rifle but kept it ready. You will come with us for questioning, he said through his translator. Any resistance will be met with force. The alien captain looked at the human soldiers and shuddered. These beings moved like predators ready to fight at a moment's notice. Their weapons looked crude but deadly. Most frightening of all, they seemed to enjoy the prospect of combat. Within 2 hours, the entire Zephyrian advance patrol had been destroyed or captured. The 3 human frigates had suffered only minor damage. Commander Stone's small force had achieved a complete victory against an enemy that was supposed to be technologically superior. The galactic news networks fell silent as they tried to process what they had witnessed. Everything they thought they knew about warfare had been proven wrong. The humans had not just won. They had demonstrated a level of tactical brutality that civilized species had forgotten could exist. On the Zephyrian homeworld, Emperor Zarthok watched the battle recordings with growing alarm. His military advisors stood around him in stunned silence. No one had expected this outcome. How is this possible? The Emperor demanded. Our shields should have stopped their primitive weapons. General Krikstar, who had barely escaped the battle in a damaged ship, tried to explain. Your Majesty, the humans fight differently than any species we have encountered. They do not follow the accepted rules of galactic warfare. They use kinetic weapons that our defenses cannot stop. The Emperor's 4 eyes narrowed dangerously. Then we will send more ships. Surely their luck cannot hold against a larger force, but luck had nothing to do with it. The humans had simply introduced concepts that the galaxy had forgotten. Aggression, adaptability, and the willingness to use whatever weapons were most effective, regardless of how primitive they might seem. News of the human victory spread across the galaxy within hours. Species that had considered humanity primitive and weak suddenly began to reconsider their opinions. The Galactic Council called emergency sessions to discuss the implications. Most disturbing of all was the realization that humans had not used their most advanced weapons in the battle. They had achieved victory with standard military equipment. If this was what humans could accomplish with basic technology, what would happen when they deployed their full military capability? The galaxy was about to find out. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike any meeting in recorded history. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the great chamber, all talking at once about the shocking human victory at Kepler 442. Ambassador Lisa Martinez found herself surrounded by alien delegates asking frantic questions about human military capabilities. How did your primitive weapons penetrate Zephyrian shields? Demanded the crystalline representative from Vexani Prime. Our scientists cannot understand how kinetic projectiles bypassed energy barriers. Lisa remained calm despite the chaos around her. Perhaps you should ask your scientists to study the difference between stopping energy and stopping matter, she replied diplomatically. The council speaker called for order, but the chamber remained noisy. Species that had dismissed humanity as backward were now deeply concerned about what humans might do next. Some delegates were already proposing restrictions on human military expansion. Meanwhile, news of the battle had reached Earth, where General Pete Williams was coordinating the human counteroffensive. Unlike alien military leaders who planned careful campaigns over months or years, Williams was implementing a strategy that would have seemed impossible to galactic observers. We strike fast and hard, Williams explained to his staff. While they're still trying to figure out what happened at Kepler 442, we hit their main supply lines and communication centers. The human war machine was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Earth's military combined ancient tactical principles with modern technology. They used surprise, speed, and overwhelming force to destroy enemy capabilities before the aliens could adapt. Captain Nancy Foster commanded the boarding ship Valkyrie as it approached a Zephyrian supply depot in the Tau Ceti system. Her mission was to capture the facility intact and gather intelligence about enemy operations. It was exactly the kind of task that human soldiers excelled at. Remember, people, Foster announced to her troops, we want prisoners and data files. Try not to blow up anything important unless you have to. The Zephyrian depot was defended by automated systems and a small garrison of alien soldiers. The defenders expected any attack to follow standard galactic warfare protocols. Long-range bombardment followed by slow, careful advance. Instead, The Valkyrie launched assault pods directly at the station. Human Marines, protected by thick armor and armed with combat weapons, smashed through the station's outer hull and began fighting their way inside. The battle was over in 20 minutes. Zephyrian soldiers, trained to operate defensive systems from safe positions, had no idea how to fight against human infantry. The aliens surrendered as soon as they realized that humans were willing to engage in close combat, using weapons that could damage the station itself. Target secured. Foster reported to Fleet Command. We have 43 prisoners and complete access to their computer systems. Similar raids were taking place across Zephyrian territory. Human forces attacked with a speed and aggression that overwhelmed alien defenses. They did not follow the careful, predictable patterns of galactic warfare. Instead, they struck wherever the enemy was weakest, using tactics that maximized damage while minimizing their own losses. Admiral Jack Thompson coordinated the human offensive from his flagship, watching as reports poured in from across the battle zone. Every engagement followed the same pattern. Human forces achieved victory through superior tactics and willingness to take risks that aliens considered suicidal. "Sir, we have a communication from Emperor Zarthok," reported Communications Officer Carol Hughes. "He wants to arrange a ceasefire to discuss terms." Thompson smiled grimly. 3 weeks ago, the Emperor had threatened to exterminate humanity. Now he wanted to talk. "Tell His Majesty that we accept unconditional surrender only. If he wants to negotiate, he can do it after his forces have been completely defeated." The message was transmitted to the Zephyrian homeworld, where Emperor Zarthok received it with shock and rage. In his palace, surrounded by military advisors, the Emperor struggled to understand how his superior forces were being systematically destroyed by a primitive species. "Your Majesty, we must consider withdrawal from human territory," suggested General Krikstar, who had barely survived the disaster at Kepler 442. "Our losses are becoming unsustainable." "Impossible," the Emperor snarled. "The Zephyrian Empire has never retreated from battle. Send more ships, deploy our heaviest weapons, use whatever force is necessary to crush these humans." But reinforcements were becoming difficult to find. News of human victories had spread throughout Zephyrian space, causing panic among civilian populations. Several Zephyrian colonies had declared independence rather than wait for human forces to arrive. The Empire's military was beginning to collapse from within. Dr. Kate Sullivan studied the intelligence reports from captured Zephyrian facilities and made a disturbing discovery. The alien military was far more advanced than humans in some areas, but they had critical weaknesses that human forces could exploit. "They have no experience with adaptive tactics," she explained to Admiral Thompson during a secure communication. "Their entire military doctrine is based on overwhelming technological superiority. When that fails, they have no backup plans." "What do you recommend?" Thompson asked. "Hit their command structure," Sullivan replied immediately. "Take out their leadership and communication networks. Without central coordination, their forces will be unable to respond effectively to our attacks." The strategy was implemented within hours. Human special forces, trained for operations that galactic species considered impossibly dangerous, infiltrated Zephyrian command centers across multiple star systems. They used stealth technology combined with old-fashioned infiltration techniques to bypass alien security systems. Lieutenant Colonel Mark Taylor led one such mission against a Zephyrian fleet command center. His team of 12 human soldiers managed to capture the facility and its entire senior staff without firing a shot. They simply walked in disguised as maintenance workers and took control before anyone realized what was happening. "This is too easy," Taylor muttered as his team secured the alien commanders. "Don't these people have any security awareness at all?" The answer was no. Galactic species had become so dependent on technology for protection that they had forgotten the basics of military security. They relied on computer systems and automated defenses while ignoring the possibility of human-style infiltration. Within a month of the war's beginning, the Zephyrian Empire was in complete chaos. Their military commanders had been captured or killed. Their supply lines were disrupted. Their communication networks were under human control. Most importantly, their soldiers had lost confidence in their ability to fight against human forces. The psychological impact was devastating. Zephyrian troops who had once been proud warriors now surrendered at the first sign of human ships. They had discovered that their advanced weapons and energy shields were useless against enemies who fought with primitive but effective tactics. On worlds throughout the galaxy, alien military leaders studied recordings of human combat operations with growing alarm. The humans had not just defeated the Zephyrian Empire, they had revolutionized warfare itself. They had shown that technological superiority meant nothing without the will and skill to use it effectively. The Galactic Council received reports from their military experts with deep concern. According to the analysis, no existing galactic force could successfully resist human military tactics. The implications were terrifying. Humanity had become the dominant military power in the galaxy almost overnight. They had achieved this not through superior technology, but through superior understanding of warfare itself. The question now was what they would do with their new position. The galaxy was about to find out that humans could be generous in victory, but they would never again allow themselves to be threatened by alien empires that believed might made right. The war ended not with a massive space battle, but with a simple transmission from the Zephyrian homeworld. Emperor Zarthok, surrounded by the wreckage of his once mighty empire, sent an unconditional surrender to Admiral Thompson. The message was brief and filled with the bitter taste of defeat. The Zephyrian Empire formally surrenders all military forces to human command. The transmission stated, "We request mercy for our civilian populations and accept whatever terms Earth deems appropriate, Admiral." Thompson received the message aboard his flagship as human forces prepared for the final assault on the Zephyrian capital system. The invasion had been planned as a demonstration of human military superiority, but it was no longer necessary. The Empire had collapsed from within. "Sir, should we proceed with the attack?" asked Captain Ryan Davis, who had been promoted to Thompson's chief of staff. Thompson considered the question carefully. The human fleet was positioned to devastate the Zephyrian homeworld. They had the power to reduce alien cities to rubble and eliminate the Empire's leadership entirely. It would send a clear message to any other species considering aggression against humanity. But Thompson remembered the principles that Earth's government had emphasized before the war began. Humans were fighting for freedom and security, not conquest and revenge. The goal was to protect human interests, not to become galactic tyrants. "Stand down all attack forces," Thompson ordered. "Prepare for occupation duties instead. We want to show the galaxy that humans can be merciful in victory." The decision shocked alien observers throughout known space. Most galactic species expected humans to follow the traditional pattern of conquest, destroy the enemy's military, occupy their territory, and impose harsh terms on the defeated population. Instead, human forces entered Zephyrian space as peacekeepers rather than conquerors. They established military governments that maintained order while protecting civilian populations. Human soldiers distributed food and medical supplies to alien refugees who had lost their homes during the fighting. Ambassador Lisa Martinez stood before the Galactic Council once again, but this time the atmosphere was completely different. The same aliens who had watched with pity as humans chose. War over surrender now listened with respectful attention to every word she spoke. "Earth proposes the establishment of a new galactic security framework," Martinez announced, "one that protects the rights of all species while preventing future conflicts through collective defense agreements." The proposal was revolutionary. Instead of allowing powerful empires to dominate weaker species, the new system would guarantee protection for any world that agreed to peaceful coexistence. It would be enforced by a joint military force commanded by human officers, but including volunteers from every member species. Council Speaker Velthara, who had replaced the previous speaker after the war, addressed the assembly. "The human proposal has merit, but many species are concerned about placing military authority in the hands of one species, regardless of their proven capabilities." "That is understandable," Martinez replied. "However, recent events have demonstrated that only humans possess the military knowledge necessary to protect galactic civilization from aggressive empires. We do not seek to rule other species, but we will not allow anyone to threaten peaceful worlds." The debate continued for days, but the outcome was never in doubt. Every species in the galaxy had seen what happened to the Zephyrian Empire. No one wanted to risk facing human military forces in combat. More importantly, many aliens were genuinely grateful for human protection against future threats. Captain Nancy Foster found herself in command of the new Galactic Defense Station, a massive facility that coordinated security operations across known space. The station was staffed by humans and aliens working together, sharing knowledge and building trust between species. "It's strange," Foster commented to her second-in-command, Major Chris Parker. "6 months ago, most of these aliens thought we were primitive barbarians. Now they're asking us to teach them our military tactics." Parker nodded as he watched alien cadets training with human instructors. Maybe they're finally realizing that there's a difference between being advanced and being effective. The training programs were carefully designed to maintain human military superiority while giving allied species the tools they needed for self-defense. Aliens learned human tactical principles and combat techniques. But the most advanced weapons and strategies remained under human control. Dr. Kate Sullivan established the Galactic Military Research Institute, where human and alien scientists worked together to develop new defensive technologies. The goal was not to create more powerful weapons, but to find better ways to protect civilian populations from future conflicts. "The key is preventing wars, not winning them," Sullivan explained to her mixed staff of human and alien researchers. "We want to make aggression so costly that no rational leader would consider it." The psychological impact of human victory continued to reshape galactic politics. Species that had spent centuries building military forces suddenly found themselves questioning the value of traditional weapons and tactics. Many began converting their war fleets into exploration and trade vessels. Emperor Zarthok, now living in comfortable exile on a neutral world, gave an interview to galactic media that summarized the new reality. "We thought that superior technology guaranteed military success," he admitted. "The humans taught us that warfare is about more than having the best weapons. It is about understanding conflict itself." The former emperor's words became widely quoted throughout the galaxy. Military academies that had once taught energy weapon tactics and shield theory now offered courses on human strategic thinking. The concepts of surprise, adaptation, and psychological warfare became standard subjects in alien military education. General Pete Williams established the Galactic Peace Enforcement Corps, an elite force of human soldiers responsible for responding to conflicts before they could escalate into full wars. The Corps operated under strict rules of engagement, designed to minimize casualties while demonstrating overwhelming human military capability. "We are not conquerors," Williams explained to his officers. "We are guardians. Our job is to protect the peace that we fought so hard to achieve." The transformation of galactic civilization was remarkable. Trade increased as species no longer feared military attacks. Scientific cooperation flourished as researchers shared knowledge without worrying about military applications. Cultural exchanges became common as aliens lost their fear of human aggression. Admiral Thompson, now serving as Supreme Commander of Galactic Defense Forces, maintained his headquarters on Earth while overseeing security operations across the galaxy. His daily briefings included reports from dozens of star systems, but most of the news was positive. "Admiral, we have a request from the Andorian Confederation," reported Colonel Sarah White during the morning briefing. "They want human advisors to help establish their planetary defense forces." Thompson approved the request without hesitation. The more species that learned proper defensive tactics, the safer the galaxy would become. Human military knowledge was being shared freely with any world that demonstrated peaceful intentions. The one major challenge facing the new galactic order was dealing with species that refused to accept human leadership. Several militant empires in distant regions of the galaxy continued to threaten their neighbors, testing whether humans would actually intervene in conflicts far from Earth. The answer came when the hegemony of Krath invaded 3 peaceful worlds in the outer spiral. Within hours of receiving distress calls, human task forces were en route to the conflict zone. The response demonstrated that Earth's protection extended to every corner of known space. The Battle of Krath lasted exactly 4 hours. Human forces disabled the hegemony's invasion fleet without destroying a single ship. The alien crews were captured, their leaders were arrested, and their weapons were confiscated. The conquered worlds were liberated and their populations were protected. Most importantly, the galaxy learned that human military intervention was swift, decisive, and proportional. Earth's forces used exactly the amount of force necessary to stop aggression. Nothing more. They protected the innocent while punishing only those responsible for violence. As the first anniversary of the Zephyrian War approached, Ambassador Martinez addressed the Galactic Council for what would be her final speech as Earth's representative. She was returning to Earth to serve as Secretary of Galactic Affairs, coordinating human activities across known space. 1 year ago, this council expected humanity to be destroyed by a superior military force, she said. Instead, we learned that technological advancement means nothing without wisdom, courage, and the will to defend what is right. The galaxy is safer today because humans chose to fight rather than surrender. The applause that followed her speech came from delegates representing hundreds of species. They were applauding not just human military victory, but the peace and security that victory had brought to the entire galaxy. As Martinez left the council chambers for the last time, she reflected on how much had changed. Humans had entered galactic civilization as junior members, barely tolerated by more advanced species. They were now the acknowledged protectors of civilized space, respected and